Dogfighting, the aerial equivalent of knights doing battle on horseback.
In a dogfight, pilots push their machines themselves to the absolute limit to decide who wins and who loses. But it's not just for heroics. To win a war, it's vital to have air supremacy.
The war-winning fighters have got much faster in the last 100 years, from just 60 miles an hour to nearly 2,000. But how did they achieve such massive speed? In 1914, just 11 years after the Wright brothers first flew, the world went to war, and aeroplanes proved themselves a brilliant weapon.
The first use of aircraft by the military was in a reconnaissance role, observing the movement of enemy troops. The aircraft were simple machines. You were flying a construction of wood, canvas and wire attached to an engine.
Early aircraft used a novel variety of internal combustion engine called a radial.
In a radial engine, the cylinders are arranged in a similar way to the spokes of a wheel, and the crankshaft in there, attached to the propeller, spin round like so, only much faster. So if we take a look at our model, engine stays still, crankshaft and propeller spin like that.
But radials overheated. The solution was the rotary engine.
In a rotary engine, the propeller is fixed to the engine, and what happens is the crankshaft stays still and the whole engine and propeller assembly spin round like so. Now, the main advantage of this is that as the engine spins, the cylinders are kept cool, which prevents overheating, which is especially useful at slow speeds and when the aircraft's sitting on the ground.
As more machines powered by self-cooling rotary engines took to the sky, their role grew from simple reconnaissance to combat.
The first hostile skirmishes consisted of pilots lobbing grenades or rope to tangle the enemy's propeller as they circled each other at a breathtaking 60 miles an hour. "Ah, you will not catch me, Fritz, no way!"
Take that, you crazy French person, you!
Some even exchanged revolver fire. All very tricky whilst you're trying to fly a primitive single-seater aeroplane. Then Frenchman Roland Garros worked out how to fix a forward-facing machine gun to his aircraft, meaning the pilot could look where he was going and where he was firing at the same time.
Forward-facing machine guns were a great advantage, but one slight problem was that you were firing bullets into your own spinning wooden propeller. Not a good thing. So Roland, being a clever chap, attached metal plates to deflect the bullets and thus prevent them from making mincemeat of his propeller. Très bien.
Garros took off with his high-tech gun rig on the 1st of April 1915. He surprised a German pilot by flying straight at him, firing guns through his propeller, and successfully downed the enemy. Dutch engineer Anton Fokker soon came up with a more sophisticated solution than deflector plates. It was called the interrupter gear.
The interrupter system, which was essentially a crankshaft-driven mechanism, allowed the machine gun to fire when the propeller was clear of the barrel, but disabled it when the propeller was in front of it, like that. Simple.
The levers and rods of the interrupter gear put an end to the problem of shooting off your own propeller.
In 1916, the Fokker Eindecker, complete with interrupter gear, hit the skies over Europe. It was a very effective fighter and won Germany air superiority. The Allies came to know it as the Fokker Scourge.
Now that the machines were both fast and well-armed, dogfighting took off in a big way, with speeds approaching 120 miles an hour by the end of the war. Time for some dogfighting lessons.
Fighter aces developed clever techniques to sneak up behind their enemy and shoot them out of the sky. Probably the most well-known of these is the Immelmann turn, made famous by German fighter ace Max Immelmann. Basically, you dive on your enemy, fire at them. If you miss, you climb, stall turn, dive on your enemy, and start again.
Speed was crucial to success, and aircraft designers worked to make fighters faster and faster and faster. During the 1930s, it became clear that another war was looming. Shooting down enemy bombers was vital, but first their fighter escorts would have to be destroyed one by one in dogfights. In Britain, R.J. Mitchell, a racing aircraft designer, came up with a fighter for the job. It first flew in 1936 and is one of my all-time favourite machines, the Spitfire.
The Supermarine Spitfire roared into the skies over Europe as Britain and Germany went head-to-head for air supremacy. Aircraft like these flew higher, faster, and carried more weaponry than their First World War predecessors. In a dogfight, they were deadly.
The power that gave the Spitfire its all-important speed was a supercharged 27-litre V12 Rolls-Royce Merlin engine.
At full throttle, this beast brought over 1,500 horsepower to the dogfight, pulling the Spitfire through the air at more than 350 miles an hour, which is 3 times the speed of the fastest fighters from the First World War. The spinning cylinders of a rotary engine limited it to a couple of hundred horsepower. The Merlin engine took advantage of a different layout. Basically, take more cylinders and arrange them in a line, one behind the other, like so. In this case, 12 cylinders in a V formation, a V12. More cylinders means more bangs per minute, which means more power, which means the engine spins faster. It's also more streamlined than a rotary engine. All in all, better for speed. The wings were very thin, minimizing drag to achieve as much speed as possible from the supercharged power of the Merlin engine.
The wings were also designed to give the fighter excellent maneuverability. The elliptical shape allowed it to turn tighter and faster than its rivals. The prototype was put together using flush-headed rivets, leaving a smooth surface all over the aircraft. But it was a very expensive and time-consuming process. So designers wanted to know if using dome-headed rivets, quicker and cheaper to do, would make a significant difference to the Spit's top speed.
The easiest way to test the extra drag effect of dome head rivets was to glue split peas to the aircraft over every flush head rivet.
Yes, almost unbelievable, but they really did do that. And the prototype Spitfire was sent up to see how the extra drag affected top speed.
Incredibly, with a full load of domed rivets, speed was reduced by 22 miles an hour. Doesn't sound much, but that could be fatal in a dogfight. Then the peas were removed from the aircraft bit by bit to see what the effect was on speed. Obvious, really.
They worked out that if dome heads were only used in certain places, just 1 mile per hour was lost. So from then on, factory-built Spits had a mixture of flush and dome-headed rivets.
When the first Spitfires went to war against Germany, they were capable of flying at 360 miles an hour. But despite these higher speeds, dogfighting tactics essentially remained the same as they had been during the First World War. Get behind your enemy and fire.
But the Spitfire had a rival, the Messerschmitt 109. Their speed in level flight was very evenly matched, meaning neither had an attacking advantage. Instead, the pilots had to learn how to escape from the enemy.
The ME 109 had more firepower than the Spitfire, but the Spitfire could climb faster and could do tighter turns, so a good pilot could evade the cannons and machine guns of the ME 109 before he's hit. The pilot's ability to squeeze maximum performance out of his machine could mean the difference between life and death. Today, I'm going to have some first-hand experience of the amazing and all-important speed and maneuverability of the Spitfire. What did you do at work today, Dad? Well, I had a ride in the most amazing machine ever in the history of machines of any kind, ever.
The first Spitfire flew in 1936. And although more than 20,000 were built, there are less than 60 still flying today. This two-seater I'm going up in started life in 1944 as a single-seater Spitfire and flew 20 operational wartime sorties.
Oh, this is absolutely sensational. This is just amazing. It's difficult to put into words really, but this is just extraordinary.
The measure of a good fighter aircraft is its ability to take the forces called G-forces caused by hard turns.
Yeah. Oh, I can feel the G now, yeah. Oh, no. Oh, God. Oh, God. Oh, God.
The Spitfire was capable of taking more G-forces than its pilots. It hasn't lost any of its amazing performance in the last 60 years. In fact, it's still utterly incredible. This truly is a phenomenal experience. The Spitfire cemented its reputation during the Battle of Britain. As German bombers headed for Britain in 1940, Spitfires were scrambled to shoot them down. But first they gunned down escorting fighters in classic one-on-one dogfights. The need to have more speed than the enemy fighters led to faster and faster versions of the Spitfire.
The Spitfire could fly at nearly 500 miles an hour, but seemed to be coming up against the speed limit beyond which the pilots were losing control.
But what was this mysterious barrier, and could it be broken? During World War II, fighter aircraft had to fly at higher and higher speeds to beat the enemy. But there was a problem. The fighters were going out of control. Scientists discovered that this happened as aircraft approached the speed of sound, roughly 700 miles an hour, depending on the aircraft's altitude.
The apparently insurmountable limit on speed became known as the sound barrier. The problems, it seemed, stemmed from the shape of the wings.
All World War II aircraft, including the Spitfire, had straight-fronted wings. Scientists realized that this was the limiting factor.
As an aircraft flies, air molecules start to pile up around the wings, like so. Now, the faster the aircraft goes, the more the molecules pile up until they form shock waves, which is rather like the bow wave of a ship. Approaching the speed of sound, the shock waves start to seriously disrupt the flow of air over the wings, causing the aircraft to go out of control. German designers came up with a solution: to sweep the wings back. This streamlining massively reduced the dangerous effects of the shock waves, allowing, in theory, aircraft to break the sound barrier while staying in control.
The era of straight-winged, propeller-driven fighters was over. It was time for a new generation of faster, swept-wing machines. Check out this little beauty.
On the 26th of April 1948, the prototype F-86 Sabre smashed through the sound barrier, becoming the first jet aircraft ever to go supersonic, although admittedly it was in a dive at the time.
The American-built fighter could fly so fast thanks to swept wings borrowed from German research and the recently invented jet engine. Jets work by sucking air in at the front, adding fuel to the air, which is then ignited. The air burns, expands, and is forced out of the back as thrust, shoving the aircraft forward. The Sabre had a General Electric turbojet engine, generating 5,200 pounds of thrust. That's like a Land Rover pushing down on your head.
The Sabre was little more than a jet engine with wings and a seat for the pilot. No thrust was wasted on luxury. The wings were swept back at an angle of 35 degrees, allowing the Sabre to safely break the sound barrier.
The Sabre could blast along at 685 miles an hour, just below the speed of sound. That's very fast, but was it any good in a dogfight? In 1950, the Sabre had its first taste of combat in Korea, up against Russian-built MiG-15s from North Korea. The Sabre and the MiG-15 looked remarkably similar, and that's not coincidence. They were both based on research into high-speed flight taken from the Germans at the end of the Second World War. Both jet-powered, both swept-wing, and both silver. Obviously, that last bit wasn't necessarily taken from the Germans, but they did have some major differences. The Sabre had better visibility from its bubble canopy and better handling thanks to hydraulic flight controls, the aircraft equivalent of power steering. Overall, the Sabre was the superior fighter. The era of jet dogfighting had arrived, and Sabre pilots battled to be crowned the first jet ace. On the 20th of May 1951, Captain James Jabara was scrambled to join a massive dogfight involving 50 MiGs and 30 Sabres. He already had 4 MiG kills under his belt. One more would give him ace status, a first for a jet pilot. As the Sabres flew into combat, they dropped their external fuel tanks to maximize performance. One of Jabara's was jammed. He should have pulled out of the fight, but he had other plans. James Jabara chased after a group of 3 MiGs. He turned hard, got one in his sights, and unleashed a rattle of machine gun fire. The MiG burst into flames, and the pilot ejected. It was Jabara's crucial 5th hit. He became the world's first jet ace. Jabara was just one of many pilots who proved the F-86 Sabre jet was a world-beating dogfighter. And as the first jet to break the sound barrier, it paved the way for aircraft that would fly at more than twice the speed of sound. As jet engines became more powerful, designers came up with ever bigger, badder, and faster aircraft. As well as guns, they carried rockets and air-to-air missiles. Air-to-air missiles led some people to believe that the days when you had to see the whites of your enemy's eyes were gone. In reality, though, the battle for air supremacy still depends on the traditional all-out dogfight. But these large aircraft weren't capable of the extreme agility demanded by fighter-on-fighter combat. So in 1976, General Dynamics unleashed a small, highly maneuverable jet just for dogfighting, the F-16 Fighting Falcon. The F-16 can fly at more than twice the speed of sound. It's incredibly agile and heavily armed. The perfect combination for a dogfighter. Pilots with your trousers on. To see what it takes to become a fighter ace, I've come to Volkel Air Base in Holland. It's 8 in the morning, and a squadron from the Royal Netherlands Air Force are briefed for a dogfighting exercise over the North Sea. With the briefing over, it's time for the pilots to suit up and head out to their F-16s. These jets really are lean, mean fighting machines. The lucky pilot straps himself in and taxis off in his F-16 Fighting Falcon for the 30-minute flight out to the combat zone. Better find another aircraft to get a piece of the action myself. Well, I've got my flight suit on, but I'm not actually allowed to fly this aircraft, funnily enough. Let's go and see what makes it tick, shall we? The F-16 gets its high top speed from a powerful Pratt & Whitney turbofan jet engine and its reheater system. A reheater or afterburner works by injecting raw fuel into the path of the hot jet exhaust gas. It burns furiously and raises the engine's output from 15,000 to 25,000 pounds of thrust. That's 5 times the thrust of the Sabre.
Thirsty work.
At full reheat, the engine burns 18 tons of fuel an hour, which would give a total flight time of less than 20 minutes. In reality, to save fuel, the afterburner is mainly used to give the F-16 a burst of speed to get in or out of trouble when in a dogfight. And when it kicks in, the aircraft can turn on a pinhead.
Right, time to open the canopy.
Flying an F-16 takes hours and hours of training and loads of skill. I wonder if they'll let me have a go after all.
The pilot flies an F-16 using a side-mounted stick, and there's good reason for this. When in a dogfight situation, he finds himself in a high-speed 9G turn, his arms will feel like they're being crushed into the armrest. With a side stick set up, he just needs his hand and fingers to be in full control of the aircraft.
Most aircraft are designed to fly straight and level for comfort and safety. The F-16, however, is intentionally designed to be unstable and relies on computers to stay in control. But this does allow it to pull amazing maneuvers. And in a dogfight, the machine that can turn tightest and fastest will win.
The F-16's power, agility and weaponry may be far removed from the early days of dogfighting, but it's still all about pilots pushing the envelope, just like they did in the First World War. The biggest difference being that in a machine like this, you really do have massive speed. Chocks away.
Now then, where did those other F-16s go? Wonder if I'm too late to join in the fun.
Now, if that's given you a rush, then you're probably the sort of person who loves boys' toys. Well, tonight, meet the men who are actually attracted to their cars. Strange Love. My Car is My Lover, tonight at 10. Takes all.